thinking.
Oh, wait, let me guess. You want to go to Montague, too, like Marcy?
That is unbelievable. You're so wise, so insightful.
Forget it.
So unfair. Come on, Dad, why not?
You know, Sam, we can't afford a place like that.
Well, I could get a scholarship and it won't cost you anything. Can I just apply?
Look, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I hate we'll sees. Can't you just make up your mind?
Okay, no.
We'll see.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to...
Hey, yo. Oh, wait.
The Who's the Boss podcast. I'm Tori.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
I got no news. I have nothing to mention. Other than it's kind of nice out tonight, so we have all the windows open. So you're probably... we live in Reseda, which if you don't know Los Angeles, well, it's in the valley. You're probably going to hear some sirens. You might hear a helicopter.
Yeah, or a car revving.
Or a car, like, speeding down, a motorcycle revving. So we apologize. We'll try to keep it as quiet as possible.
Oh my God,
seriously.
That's a car revving.
Oh, I couldn't have planned that any better.
It almost is like you played the sound.
It's almost as if you guys are here with us, right? Welcome to Reseda. Okay, so the episode today is from Season 3, Episode 3. It's called Daddy's Little Montague Girl. It first aired on October 21st, 1986. That's my best friend's birthday. And the TV Guide summary says, Angela gets Samantha into an exclusive boarding school, which Tony doesn't want her to attend.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah. So this episode was written by two men, Tom Seeley and Norm Gunzenhauser. It's either Gunzenhauser, but I think it's Gunzenhauser.
Okay.
And this is the only episode of Who's the Boss that they will write.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That might explain why it feels so isolated.
Yeah, I feel
talk
like
about that later.
These episodes that are written by not the main 8 or whatever writers always have a little bit of a different feel to them. And I do think that this one does as well. But that writing team went on to write a lot of Murphy Brown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so good for them.
Yeah.
That was a
fantastic
show. Okay, so when this episode opens, Tony is doing one of the dumbest things I've seen him do yet.
This doesn't make any sense.
I know. He's like throwing the vacuum cleaner out and then reeling it back in. And that's not going to do anything because the part that's
it's like riding high up.
It's not even touching the ground. So he's doing that. The girls come downstairs. Sam and Marcy were up in Sam's room, and they want him to keep it down because they're trying to listen to music. So he's like, oh, all right, well, that's fine. How about, I turn this off and then you guys can do it later. And Sam's like, oh no, never mind. Okay, that's fine. So they go back upstairs, and Tony's dancing with the vacuum cleaner. So
I know. I went from him I don't know what he was doing, slinging it back and forth. He's dancing, throwing his leg over it. Like, what's happening?
He's like, this does have a good beat. And he starts dancing with it. So now upstairs in Samantha's room, Marcy is trying on one of Sam's outfits. And she's like, what do you think? And Sam's like, well, it's my shirt, my blouse, and my belt. So I like it. And she's like, is it me? And she's like, yeah, it's you. So Marcy mentions that they're better than best friends. They're the same size.
Yep.
That's such a teenage girl thing.
I know.
Do boys do that? Like, would you go over to your friend's house and borrow their clothes?
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember doing that. I had some friends that I'd go over and wear their shirts, or they would wear my stuff when they came over. So, yeah, I don't think that's uncommon all the way around.
Oh, I didn't realize that was also a guy thing.
Yeah. Like, you had a cool t-shirt, like a band. Back in the day, they had a cool band shirt or something you wanted to wear.
To steal
and never return.
So they're going to set something up here, and Sam says, I'm really going to miss you when you go off to school. So Marcy...
Oh, they're the cars. And that's a serious drag race right there.
That is some racing. So they're setting up that Marcy is going away to school. And Sam says she's really going to miss her, and Marcy's like, well, why don't you come with me? So Samantha's looking through the brochure, and she says the only brown eyes in this brochure are on the horse. So she's basically saying, like, it's all just a bunch of rich white girls.
Right. Who apparently only have blue eyes.
Right, blue eyes and blonde hair.
Right.
So she's saying, you know, I could never go there. It costs too much. And Marcy forgets that Sam's dad is a housekeeper. She's like, oh, I always forget. You seem so normal.
I know. It's not nice.
I know. It's not nice. I mean, Marcy doesn't mean it in a bad way, but it's not nice.
Seems so rich, she means.
Right. So she's like, well, you know, you could get a scholarship. You don't have a Mercedes.
Right, right.
And Sam's like, yeah, I've had a beat-up van.
That's
You're right.
Yeah. She suddenly realizes being, well, not poor, but not having enough money has its advantages.
Right. So back downstairs, now Tony's talking to the vacuum cleaner because apparently it ate a sock. So
Right.
he wants to remind the vacuum cleaner that it needs to chew before it swallows because he had to pull the sock out. And Mona and Angela...
Even that vacuum, it's the whole thing in this episode.
It is, yes.
It's almost like they needed Tony in the living room. They like, how do we keep him in the living room? Oh,
right.
He's fighting the vacuum the whole time.
And look at that vacuum, too. Like, remember the bags?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
He
vacuums
took the whole
are very
bag and
different.
threw it away.
Yeah, right?
Wasteful.
Yeah, that was very wasteful.
You had to line up the hole with the... Oh, gosh.
Knocking in the microphone.
Knifing the microphone around. I'm getting so worked up at the vacuum.
So Mona and Angela come in, and it's not necessarily their first day, but it's the beginnings of the Bauer Agency. And they come in, Tony asks them how the day was. Mona thinks it was great. Angela says it wasn't great. And Angela's reasoning is that they're not getting anywhere on the Hutchinson account. But, and I forgot to mention that as they're walking through the door, which almost sounds like an ad lib, you hear Angela say to Mona, they're accounts, mother, not subscriptions. So Mona doesn't even have the lingo down yet. So
Subscriptions.
she says, we're not getting anywhere with the Hutchinson account. And Mona's like, you may not be, but I have a date with Mr. Hutchinson.
I think she says with Hutch.
Oh, with Hutch, you're right.
Right, like
yeah.
she's on a, nicknames type basis with
yeah.
Mr. Hutchinson already. Hutch.
So Tony reassures her, don't worry, things will pick up. The business is going to do great, and Mona's already doing her part.
Yep.
So now Sam and Marcy come downstairs, and Sam says to Dad, hey, guess what? Marcy's going to Montague Academy. And Angela, who happens to be looking at herself in the mirror at the time, screams. I'm surprised it wasn't an ee Angela scream. And Mona says, yes, dear, it is time to do your roots again. But
of course, a dig. Always got to dig at her.
Angela says, no, I went to Montague Academy. So she's super excited for Marcy. And she's going on and on about how it's a place that you just want to learn. It makes you want to learn. And she's going to have such a great time. And she's going to be a real academia nut. Mm-hmm. It's so Angela. She's such a dork. And I love her.
She's way into it.
Yeah. So they're kind of making fun of Angela about Montague. And Marcy doesn't seem all that, excited about whatever Angela's saying. I think Marcy's more interested in just living away from home. And she said earlier that on the weekends they go into Boston and they meet boys. Mm. So Sam's like, Dad, I've been thinking. And Tony's like, let me guess. You want to go to Montague with Marcy. And she's like, wow, how did you, you're so wise.
Right.
You picked on that so quickly. So he says no. And she's like, why? He says, well, one, we can't afford it. So she brings up the idea of a scholarship. And he's like, no. He's still saying no. And so Angela says, oh, why not just let her apply? And
right, just to know.
Right, yeah. That doesn't mean she has to go. But if she doesn't apply, she won't know. But Tony's still saying no. And Sam's begging. And then he says, we'll see. She's like, I hate we'll see. And he says, okay, well then no. When she's like, we'll see's good.
We'll see was the worst when I was a kid. I got it all the time.
But see, I feel like now our kids, I don't know that we use we'll see, but our kids associate maybe with yes. Have you noticed that?
I guess so, yeah.
If I say maybe, then they're like, oh, I know that's yes, and they get all excited. So
yeah, I'm always with, when I was a kid, I got will see all the time.
Right, and that meant never.
Oh, yeah.
So Sam and Marcy go upstairs, and once they're gone, Angela again is like, I don't, why won't you just let her apply? And Tony says, I have my reasons. So Angela's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. But why? What are the reasons?
I know, no reasons.
Right.
I have reasons that I'm not going to tell you.
Right. But she's not going to let this go. So she just wants him to let Sam have a chance. And he says, well, what if she doesn't get in and she's heartbroken? And Angela says, well, she's a big girl. She can take it. And what if she gets in and everybody hated her? Mm-hmm. And Mona says, that never bothered Angela.
I know, again.
So mean.
All the time.
But why? No one's going to hate Sam. Everybody loves Sam at school. I guess maybe he means because she's not rich like everyone else. But Sam's going to have that no matter where she goes. So why not let her, just try for this opportunity? So they cut to a few days later where Sam is actually filling out the application to go to Montague. And they're saying, like, okay, what do you think was the single most important invention of the 20th century? And Angela's trying to give her ideas. Mona's trying to give her ideas. But Tony's like, hey, they want to know what she thinks. So you can't be helping her here because she's gonna get into the school. She needs to do it on her own. And Sam says that she thinks it's TV. And Angela's like, I don't think reruns of Gilligan's Island are really what they're looking for. But Sam does make a good point. And she says, no, because TV lets you know things that are happening when they're happening. So, like, what if there had been TV during, one of the main wars or something? We would have known more up-to-date stuff.
It's funny you think about that now with the internet.
I know. So
it's like without internet, we don't know what's going on.
And we did grow up with TV, and we did know more. But I feel like it's gotten so much worse since this point in time. Mm-hmm. Like, where there'll be coverage for stuff for like 24 hours a day for 4 or 5 days. Right. So, and now social media has made it. And you have
it on the phone, and it's everywhere.
And you can't get away from it. Okay, so the next thing is a word to describe yourself. So again, they're trying to give her, they're saying like adorable. I can't remember.
Which is not going to help.
Oh, lovable, dependable, spontaneous. And Tony says, A-O-O-A. Because he wants them to stop helping her. And she's like, oh, that's a good one. And then Jonathan's, what?
No, it's like, what does that mean, though?
Right.
How does that describe her?
Like, they're going to read that and be like, A-O-O.
What is that?
I know, but then I love that Jonathan's like, but that's 2 words. And Samantha says, I'll put a hyphen.
There you go.
We put a hyphen on our podcast.
We do.
I mean, not between all of them, but at least between the A-O and the O-A.
Well, I feel like you can pass off A-O as one.
Right. So,
which is what I think she's probably going to do.
Right, she's just going to write down the one word, yeah. Okay, now the next one is a tough one. Father's occupation. Mm. She says to Tony, what do I put, Dad? And he says, you put housekeeper, because that's what I am. And if that's not good enough for them, then you don't need to go there. So he gets upset and he leaves. And she's like, okay. And she writes down housekeeper and former professional ball player.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, poor Tony.
Well, she's not lying.
No, that's true. She's not lying. But, I mean, he is, it's just trying to make it seem
I know exactly what
better.
She's doing.
And, it still has to be hurtful for him that she's not really sure what she should write down for his occupation.
Right. She knows what he does.
So now it's time for like I guess what you would call this an open house.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Yeah, at Montague. So Tony, Angela, and Sam have all gone to this open house. And they're sitting in, one of like a, what would you call that? Like not a conference room, but some sort of sitting area on the campus. And a lady
that narrows it down. Some kind of
it looks like somebody's living room, basically, but just like super fancy.
Right.
So it's probably like some fancy house, and it's like one of the main.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's a woman doing a slideshow presentation talking about the school. This actress is Dale Rowell.
Okay.
And she is still working.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was in an episode of Young Sheldon in 2018, Fresh Off the Boat in 2019. She was in 25 episodes of True Blood back in 2008 to 2014. Yeah. She's in an episode of one of your favorite shows, 6 Feet Under. So yes, she has been working consistently.
I don't remember her from True Blood either, but I mean, I'd have to look at her closely.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what she looks much different in her headshots.
She's in one episode of 6 Feet Under?
Yeah.
She probably died.
Right, she's probably one of the people who dies at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in 2 episodes of The Office.
Oh, interesting.
So look and see who she played on that. Yeah, but she has 79 credits on IMDb and is still working today, so...
How about that?
I know. I love when I see that.
I know. Like they're regular working actors.
Yeah. So she's going through this slideshow. She's going on and on about all the different places. And as she's going through them, Angela's like pointing out, oh, that's Curtis Hall.
Right.
And that's this and that's that. And then they show some tennis courts and Tony's like, let me guess, those are the tennis courts.
Tony's had it already.
Yeah. So then she says like all of this under the watchful eye of Dean Edna Franklin. And instead of showing a woman, it's a picture of a horse.
Which makes no sense.
I know.
But, and then I like that she giggles. She's
I
like,
know.
ooh.
Who put that
Like
there?
you can tell that she maybe doesn't like her very much. So,
Yeah,
and then Tony's the
that's
only
a
one
good
in
point.
and Tony's the only one in the crowd that laughs. You're who?
Right.
Like he got a kick out of the horse.
Yeah, so...
But then she's like, who put that there?
Right.
Like, maybe she did.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't know.
I didn't even think about that.
You could just tell she didn't like him. Or you could tell maybe she doesn't like her.
Right,
or something.
yeah. What is the backstory there? Mm-hmm. That is a good point. But Angela, of course, is like, but that's not her. Like,
right.
Naive Angela again.
Always.
So after the slideshow, Angela asked Tony, like, so what do you think? Like, what do you think about the school? And he's like, I gotta admit, it's really nice and it's probably a great school, and I've never seen a dorm with maid service before. And Angela's like, yes, I used to love the little mints they leave on your pillows.
Like, what kind of place is this?
No. So they see Samantha. She's talking to a couple of people, and she's done with the interview now. So she had to go through an interview with Dean Franklin. And I guess it went well. She says, it's good to know that Dean Franklin's a Knicks fan. Mm-hmm. And then Samantha says, she also looks a lot like a horse. So now they're just getting mean. I mean, poor Dean Franklin. The lady does not look like a horse.
No, not at all. I like that Tony called the interview the Inquisition.
Right, yeah. So Samantha runs off to go try and talk to some more people, and Angela sees Dean Franklin come in the room, and she gets all nervous, and she's like, oh, I haven't seen her in years. She probably won't even recognize me. I was such an awkward, self-conscious teenager. And Dean Franklin immediately recognizes Angela.
I know, it was great. But I like that she's in a panic, like when she walks in the room.
Yeah, like she's all excited. Okay, so this woman, now I looked up who she was, but I didn't want to tell you who it is until tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned that, yeah.
Okay, so as a quick backstory, I have to say that over the past couple months, Kevin and I have been showing each other movies from our childhood that the other one hasn't seen. So, for instance, we watched Romancing the Stone because that was a movie I loved as a kid. He hadn't seen. We watched Night Shift, which is a movie he loved as a kid. I hadn't seen. I really enjoyed that movie.
And I shouldn't have been watching Night Shift.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, you did like Night Shift.
No, I love Night Shift.
And Bachelor Party, not so much.
Okay, so then the other one was Bachelor Party, which ends up just being a super sexist.
I know, I didn't realize how. I don't think I've seen it in 30 years.
Like, I wasn't offended or anything, but watching that movie, I was like, oh my gosh, you really should not have been watching this as a child.
Oh, God, no.
And this is a super sexist movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but in that movie, hang on, where's her name? She is Sister Mary Frances.
Okay, at the beginning.
At the beginning, and then also the face on the woman that his friends are trying to get him. Remember when they're trying to get him to have sex with that girl, and then the face turns into Sister Mary Frances.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It's her.
So that is this actress.
Oh, that's
yes.
great.
And she worked up until 1994. She died December 24th. Oh, Christmas Eve. I wonder if she celebrated Christmas. That's right. Very sad. 2017 at the age of 97.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And,
wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought you would get a kick out of that. So that's Sister Mary Frances from Bachelor Party.
Good. Glad I didn't look her up. Glad I didn't do any work. And you did it all. And I'm surprised.
And then
awesome.
No one else really in this episode is of note. But so Angela goes off to talk to Dean Franklin. So now Tony's like, all right, well, I'm going to go mingle and try to find someone to talk to. So at first he hears these men talking about business and he's like, okay.
Yep, moving on.
Then he hears a couple of women and one lady says, just the way my mother taught me, 2 half knots and a back stitch. So he's probably like, oh, okay, hang on, sewing. I can get into this. But she says, and those sutures will last longer than the heart valve. And so he realizes that they're talking about heart surgery. And he's like, okay, moving on.
Why,
So,
like he says, move on, Micelli.
Right.
Like he's got a little catchphrase. To himself, he says it.
So then he hears a couple of men talking about no one hits the ball like Jackson. And he's like, okay, now we're talking. So he gets in on their conversation and he's going on about how Jackson's having a great year.
And mind you, this would have been in the 80s, so he probably thought they were talking about Reggie Jackson, who was a hitter for the Yankees. Outfield hitter.
Oh, okay.
Or, Yankees and Athletics.
Okay.
But I'm guessing Jackson. It's the only
that
big
makes
baseball
sense.
name I can think of in the 80s.
Right. So he says he's having a great year. And then just from that, the guys say, oh, it sounds like you know a lot about the sport. Actually, it doesn't sound like he knows anything about the sport, but I guess they think so. So he's like, yeah, I used to play for the Cardinals. And the guys are like, I don't think I've heard of them. So he's like, you haven't heard of the St. Louis Cardinals? And then he realizes that they're talking about polo. So poor Tony.
Wah.
He's really not fitting
Move
in
on,
here.
Micelli.
Right.
He's not fitting in at Montague at all.
So Angela brings Dean Franklin over to speak to Tony. She introduces her, and Dean Franklin basically says, you know, your daughter's great. We had a great interview. She's delightful. And Tony's like, yeah, we like her. And she says, you know, someone with her background may get passed up, but because of Angela's, you know, word that she put in, you know, we really think that she has a chance. So Tony's like, what do you mean? Oh, she says, thanks to Angela's efforts. So he's like, what do you mean? And so we find out that Angela has called, has sent letters, like she called every single member of the admissions committee.
Wow.
She
busy.
sent letters and postcards. She's gone on and on about Samantha. Yeah, so she's really working whatever angle she can to help Samantha get into this school. And I'm assuming, even though they don't say it, that also means with a scholarship, because otherwise Tony would not.
How else?
Right. So Tony's like, oh, okay, well, that's our Angela. Thanks. So Dean Franklin's like, you know, I may be a little premature in saying this, but I think you've got yourself a Montague girl.
Wow.
So she leaves, and Angela is just so excited. She's so happy that this is working out. And she tells Tony, you know, you don't have to thank me. He's like, good, I won't. Tony is not at all happy. So he says, I don't like this school, and I don't want Samantha going to it. And of course, Samantha happens to walk up behind them right as he says it. So he asks Angela, you know, who asked you to butt in and who asked you to do this? And Samantha says, I did. So it's kind of... the Samantha part here is a little funny. Again, something I wouldn't have
It's like
noticed.
she didn't know what to do. Like, it was awkward.
Yeah. Like the
was
look
supposed to be
she
all
gave
scorned,
is
but-
like such a little kid look when they're angry. But when you watch that as a kid, you like... Yeah, but then when you watch it as an adult, you're like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, like, take it easy.
Right.
A little dramatic.
So they go back home, and Mona and Jonathan are playing chess, and I guess she was watching. So they leave Samantha and Jonathan home alone, but she probably wouldn't leave Jonathan home alone yet.
No, can't do that.
Yeah, plus it's nighttime. So they're hanging out, and everyone comes in the front door. But I thought Samantha's pretty mean to Mona here, because Mona's like, she doesn't know what happened. She said, how's the open house? And Sam says, it was open and it was a house, all right?
Yeah, she's just mad. Angry teenager.
And again, as a kid, I probably wouldn't have been annoyed by that line at all. So Mona's like, okay, well, how was everyone else's night? So Sam says she's going to bed, and she goes upstairs. She says goodnight to everyone. She says that I guess she can forget about Montague. And she says goodnight to everyone except for Tony. And she goes upstairs. So now Mona's like, what happened? What's going on? So Angela has to get rid of Jonathan. So she tells Jonathan, you need to go up to bed as well. But he's like, I haven't finished beating Grandma in chess yet. So Angela quickly gets a checkmate and then sends him to bed.
Yeah.
So now that he's gone, the adults can talk. So she asks again, what happened, what went wrong? And Tony says it rhymes with Bangela.
Ridiculous. Bangela.
So he says, if you hadn't butt in and you hadn't really made a big deal out of all this and stopped pushing, then she would have forgotten about this school. But Angela's like, that's not true. And the reason why she wants to go to school there is because of Marcy, not me. So she really doesn't understand why he's so upset with her when, she figures that the only reason he wouldn't have wanted her to go there is because he couldn't afford it and he didn't think that there was any way she would get in. So Angela's like, I don't get it because this is a wonderful school and, she really wants to go. But Tony, again, is like, this is all your fault, and he leaves. So I feel like Tony, they each kind of have a habit of doing this. Tony especially when it comes to Sam, he will just go off the rails a bit and then get angry and walk out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of the same thing that happened in Samantha's growing up when Angela was trying to introduce her to new clothes and new makeup, and he saw Sam changing, and he really kind of shut down over that. So after Tony leaves, Angela's talking to Mona and saying, I don't understand why he's so upset about this. And here we go, Mona coming in as the equalizer.
Yeah, once again.
Yeah, bringing everyone back down a level. So she says, maybe what he's afraid of is that you're going to make Sam turn into someone like you. And Angela's like, thanks, that's a help. But that's not what Mona means, really. She means that she'll become a professional and she'll be way above what he considers his stature to be. And it would be as if she's outgrowing him. They wouldn't really have any way to relate anymore because she would be more on Angela's level and he would still be himself.
That's how did Mona come up with all that?
I know. And I know, she just sees, that's what Mona does. She always just sees the situation, and she's the person in the script that is there to let everyone know,
yeah, that's true.
What is going on. But it works for her character, for sure. But I like how she either she or Angela says she'll become someone who's more comfortable with the stock market than the supermarket.
Yeah.
So Angela realizes that the reason is that Tony's just afraid that Samantha won't need him anymore, or Samantha will outgrow him and think that he's below her. So Angela goes in to talk to Tony, and Tony's so upset that he's cleaning the soap. He's scrubbing the soap with a sponge.
What are you doing?
Why? So Tony's upset that Samantha didn't even say goodnight to him. And he said, she always says goodnight to me. Even when she had the mumps, she said, so Angela says, I know exactly how you're feeling because Mother explained it to me.
Great. Here we go.
And she it basically explains what Mona explained to her. Like, you grew up in Brooklyn. You grew up on the streets. You were playing spitball with your friends.
Spitball.
Yeah. Tony's like, that's stickball. Okay. And so when you pictured Sam growing up, you didn't picture her going to a prep school and having a career. And Tony's like, yes, you can say that again. She says, you pictured her to be more like you. And Tony says, yes, but without the hair on my chest or hair on her chest.
Right.
And then this is really sweet because Angela says, sometimes I forget that Sam is your little girl and not mine. Mm-hmm. So I think that's cute because, and I feel like Tony has this influence on Jonathan too. Like, he probably wants Jonathan to be more into sports and stuff, and so that he can really relate to him. And Angela probably wants Sam, one, just to go in this direction because it'll be good for her as a grown-up, and Angela doesn't have a little girl to really, try to mold into a woman. So, it's really cute that they probably each feel that way about their kids.
Yeah, much more family-oriented and I just forgot. That's not my daughter.
Right. And I think this is really, probably not the first time because I feel like we got a little bit of this from Angela and Samantha's growing up, but probably the first time in a while that she's really expressed this feeling towards Sam. So Tony is Angela says, I had my own dream because I wanted her to be more like me. Or Tony says, wanted her to be like you. And Angela apologizes for that. But Tony's like, don't apologize. I would be happy if Samantha grew up to be like you. And he says, I think you're terrific.
Yeah, another nice moment.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And he, again, says, I took this job so that she could have a better education and she could have a better life. But I think also, and they're going to get to it here in a minute, Angela again is like, well then, this is one of the best schools in the country and I don't understand really why you're so upset about it. Is it because it's expensive? No. Mm-hmm. Is it this? No. And he says the problem is that it's so far away.
And he says it like a baby.
I know. Is it too snobby? No. It's so far away.
It's so far away.
So Angela's like, oh, you're going to miss her. It was probably the one thing she wasn't thinking of in the moment. She
suddenly realized it.
Yeah. So maybe Mona didn't really have all the answers then because, I'm sure a lot of what she said may be true, but when it comes down to it, it's just that Tony doesn't want her to go so far away. And he did move here so that she could get a better education, but he also took this job and moved there so that he could spend more time with her and be in her life.
Right.
And if she's at boarding school, then he's now just somebody's housekeeper and taking care of Jonathan.
Right. Right. He didn't have a daughter to take care of anymore.
Right. So he goes upstairs. He sneaks into Samantha's room to look at her. He's still upset that, she didn't say goodnight to him. But he just kind of checks on her. Do you think he does this every night? Because I still have not reached the point where I don't go into the girls' room every night before we go to sleep. I don't know.
That's a good question. But maybe he went in there I think that he went in there to see if she was still awake, I think. Isn't that?
Oh, okay. Did he? Yeah, he probably went to see if he could talk to her, and she was asleep. Okay.
Right. So then he just tucks her in.
Right. So he's trying to leave quietly, and he stubs his toe on the bed on the way out. And he's trying to hold in a scream when Sam's like, go ahead and scream, Dad, because I'm awake.
Right.
So Tony says, I just want to say I'm sorry about Montague. It's just that where I come from, people don't go shipping their kids off to school. And he's like, what if you get lonely? And she says, well, Marcy will be there. And he says, well, what if he gets sick? And she's like, well, the school nurse will be there. But he says, that's my job. It's my job to take care of you when you're sick. Right. Because you're my little girl, and you're always going to be my little girl. Even when you're an old lady, you're going to be my little girl.
And yeah, I know. It's funny. Very Tony. But what is interesting about it is, I think where I come from, I don't remember kids going off to school at the young age.
No, I mean, that's just for super rich kids, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's a rich people thing.
Yeah. I do work with someone who went to boarding school when they were younger. Actually, I think 2 people who went to boarding school when they were younger. Yeah. So, but yes, I didn't know of anyone when I was a kid who, like, left school and went to boarding school. But
Yeah, I didn't either.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that is just for really rich kids. So...
You pay a lot of money to get rid of your kid for a while.
You know, I do...
Must be nice.
Before COVID, I do know someone at work who every summer, both of their sons go to camp on the East Coast for the entire summer.
Wow.
I know. We gotta...
What's that all about?
We could never afford that, but if we could even afford a fraction of that, at some point I want in on that.
Let's start saving up. Just for that.
Yeah, just for 2 weeks of sleepaway camp. That would be amazing. Okay, so Sam's like, does that mean I can go? And he says yes. So she is so excited. And he's like, you know, all right, but you're going to have to write. She says, I will. He's like, and I'm going to call a lot. She says, I know. And he says, I'm going to be a real nuisance. I'm coming up every weekend. She's like, I know that too. I'm guessing the school is probably like 2 hours away. I mean, like, far enough.
It sounds like it's close to Boston, and they're in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right.
I probably should have looked at a map before this because I really don't know how far
I would
that
say
is.
2 hours away would be my guess.
Yeah. So far enough that he won't be able to see her except for the weekends, but close enough that he could go every weekend.
Yeah.
So he tells her, you know, I want you to get great grades so that you can pick any college you want to go to and get any job that you want and be all you can be.
Which is an army.
Right.
It's an army saying.
I looked it up and I don't think they use it anymore. You're right.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So she gets back into bed and she says goodnight to him this time. So, and then I'll see you in the morning. So they've made up. Everybody's happy. So now they're just waiting for the letter to arrive. And Angela's like, where's the mailman? Why isn't he here yet? And Mona's like, I don't know. I think Mrs. Wilmington might have had a special delivery.
Of course.
Right. So that's a reference to Diane Wilmington, who we will never...
Wait for that person to race the other person.
We'll never see her again on the show, but that's funny that she's still being referenced. So Tony comes in. He's got Jonathan on his back, which is super cute. And they ask, did you see the mailman? He's like, no, it could be a while. I think Mrs. Wilmington's getting a special delivery. So, but somehow Tony got the mail. You think, what did he just do? Go up to the mail cart and like dig through and find their names and pull it out? So
Very Tony.
Yeah. So he shows them that he has the mail. They're super excited. And he's slowly going through it like, oh, okay, hang on. All right, we got a bill, a letter from Montague. And then they get excited that he says, oh, hang on, a letter from Bill. So they yell for Samantha to come down. And Mona and Angela are very excited because it's a thick envelope, which means that it's most likely welcome papers and not just a we're sorry you couldn't get it.
Right, because that's only one piece of paper.
Right.
One sheet.
What does she say? I think Mona says fat envelopes never lie.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever that means.
And then it only takes one piece of paper to say kiss off sucker.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay, so they opened the letter and Samantha got in. So they're very excited. They're all very proud of her. She runs upstairs because she wants to go call Marcy. And then as they're kind of hanging out in the living room, Jonathan looks all sad and he's hanging out by the chair of the secretary desk. And he says, things won't be the same here without Samantha. Mm-hmm. And Angela's like, oh, you're going to miss her. Like, I don't think Angela realized that anyone was going to miss Sam, Tony or Jonathan. So he's like, yeah, I will miss her, but can I have her room?
She didn't wait long.
Right. Like, that would be the first thing that our second daughter would ask when our first daughter moves out.
That's a good point.
So Angela goes into the kitchen to check on Tony. He's getting ice cream for everyone because that's how they're going to celebrate. Okay, a couple of things here. So he's holding a carton of Edie's ice cream. I think that's how you say that.
Yeah, it is.
And I looked it up, and they do have a butter toffee brickle flavor.
Is that what it is? Butter brickle?
Yeah, it was butter brickle. And they have a butter toffee brickle.
Oh.
So I think we figured out where the butter brickle reference comes from.
Yeah,
it's
Edie's.
Edie's flavor. And that appears to be the ice cream. It's Edie's/Dryers, which I think they're either associated or the same company. So Angela just wants to know if he's doing okay. And Tony's like, yeah, I mean, going into the freezer was pretty hairy, but I think I made it. So he's just sort of deflecting what she's really asking here. And she says, you know, I know you were hurting, but you were great out there and you didn't show it. And she's so happy. So Angela says, you're a very brave man, Tony Micelli, which is cute.
Yeah, it was. Leading up to that, he had some bumps in the road.
Right, yes. For the last 4 minutes, you were a very brave man, Mr. Tony Micelli. Before that, you kind of acted like a child.
Exactly.
So Angela's, you know, happy for Tony, happy for Sam. Sam comes in, she wants to talk to Tony. So Angela's like, okay, well, I'll take the ice cream and I'll go out to give them a little bit of privacy. So yes. Samantha's like, you know, I've been thinking Montague's really far away. Right. And Tony's like, well, you know, we're going to keep in touch. And she's like, yeah, but it won't be the same. Like, I've never been away from home before. I'm only 14. Like, she's really starting to backpedal now.
Right.
And he's like, okay, well, you know, if you don't feel like you're ready, then you don't have to go to this. So she says, maybe not this year. I just miss you too much. Mm-hmm. So they hug, and he's...
Right, and then...
Right, he's happy for her, and then he says, Marcy didn't get in, did she? She says no. She shakes her head no. It's a really cute little shaking her head no, too.
Yeah.
Okay, but so again, like, this is probably something that when I saw as a kid, I thought, oh, yeah, okay, so she's not going to go because her friend didn't get in. And now as an adult, I'm like, what?
Right.
Like, first of all, Angela went way out on a limb for her.
I like called all these people, wrote letters. They drove. Well, by the way, Connecticut to near Boston's 2 hours.
Okay.
They drove all that way, checked out the school.
Yeah, put in a good word for her.
Yeah.
And so now she's not going to go to the school, which would probably, you know, really shape the rest of her life in one direction or another.
Yeah, nothing.
Because Marcy's not going to go.
Right, after all that.
So yeah.
And Marcy didn't get in. How did Marcy not get in?
I know, right? Well,
like, what happened?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I would imagine Marcy's grades are decent, but maybe they already had like 25 other Marcys to pick from.
It's true.
But yeah, so I thought that was funny. And I'm surprised that Angela's not like, bitch, what? Like,
right. I mean, I worked hard for you.
Right. That was my alma mater, and I went out on a limb for you, and now you're not going to go. But realistically, you can't have Alyssa Milano not be on this show, so Samantha was never going to this school.
True.
Like, it was all just a setup for this episode. But yes, that was just something that I thought. One of the many ways when I watch this as an adult, I'm way more on Angela's side than Samantha's side now. So in the tag, Angela's going through all of her Montague memorabilia. She's holding up a little, what do you call those things?
A pennant?
Yeah, that's right. That says virtue above all.
Virtue above all.
And Mona's like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. So Angela's just kind of reminiscing about her time. And she's like, you know, I'm glad that Sam's going to be around, but, you know, I'm sad that she's not going. And she shows off her president's pin from the Jane Austen Society. And Jonathan's like, who's Jane Austen? And wait, what does Mona say? She's like some old maid who wrote
some
books.
Yeah.
First of all, you would think that, like, Jane Austen wrote very feminist books for her time, so you would think that Mona would actually be more of like a Jane Austen fan, just the way that she views the world.
Right.
So I thought it was funny that they had her kind of say that about such a feminist writer, but it's just got to be Mona's way to like get a dig in on Angela.
Yeah, and try to be good, be cool.
Right. So she's basically joking that, like, you were doing the Jane Austen fan club when everybody else was going to Boston to meet boys.
That's right.
Yeah. So Samantha comes in and she says, "Hey, Dad, guess what? Marcy applied to a Finnish school." And Angela's like, "Oh, no, so, honey, that's a finishing school." And Samantha's like, No, it's Finnish in Finland. Can I go?"
I know.
And then everybody just kind of face palms.
Like, oh.
Yes, face palm emoji. And
Yep.
that is the end of the episode. Okay, so I have no idea who did Rating Last. But I can go first if you want me to.
That's fine. I mean, either way.
Okay,
Probably on
so
the same page with this one.
yeah, I gave it a 7. I mean, I might have gone a little bit higher probably than you did. It's not my favorite. I do remember enjoying it a lot as a kid, but I think because I enjoyed the Samantha parts more. So now as an adult, it was fine. And there were some cute Tony and Angela parts. There was some very cute kind of getting a better idea of how Angela feels about Samantha. But overall, It did have that feel of being written by outsiders, I guess. It's the only way I can really explain it. So, but still not bad. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I gave him a 6.5,
Okay.
but I'm the same way. It felt like such an I don't want to say outcast, but isolated episode.
Right,
is really what I'm
yeah.
looking for. Yeah, it's standalone in a way. I mean, all the episodes really are, but it just didn't have that feeling of a typical Who's the Boss episode to me.
Right.
Felt like it was kind of filler. Didn't really move anything forward.
Yeah.
Not
I
that
agree.
there's all these groundbreaking things going on in the show, but you know what I mean, like Angela
Right.
and Tony, or there were some good moments between the two of them. But yeah, overall, I'd say 6.5.
Nice.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you!
So I went with Dean Franklin. I could stop doing that.
Miss Olive.
Miss Olive with the horse's face.
Right.
I really thought she was in charge. I actually went with Mona.
Okay.
If that's, I don't know. I just felt like, Angela was kind of, I thought Angela at first, but I felt like she was just being a little overbearing. Tony was trying to pull back, so he really wasn't leading anyone anywhere. Like,
Tony
he
was
was
in
just
panic
being
mode.
resistant, right, and just kind of going with the flow there. So I just thought Mona kind of gave advice to Angela, and also kind of like, was kind of supportive, like, hey, what happened to the the open house or whatever. I don't know, there wasn't much, but I just went with Mona. I just thinking that maybe she was like you always say, the equalizer. So
Right.
kind of brings them back down to earth. And without her, the conversation would have happened between Tony and Angela in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Which wouldn't have sparked. I don't know. Like, she was kind of guiding the ship a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I didn't go with Mona, but I do see that, and I see that even more now. But I went with Angela because...
That would have been my second.
Yeah, at the beginning, she was like, why won't you let her do this? And then she kind of got Tony to let her apply. Then she really took charge and, wrote letters and made phone calls to make sure she got in. And
As
then,
if she was her own daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of her hopes and dreams were crushed when she decided she wasn't going to go because her friend didn't get in. So...
Yeah.
So,
Right.
as a consolation prize, I'm going to go with Angela as the boss.
But
on this
Angela
one.
should be just like, I am never doing anything for you again.
I know, right?
I busted my ass to get you into this school.
I know, but much like if she is going to see Sam as her actual daughter, she's going to do it again.
Yeah, she is. And she's
Because-
going to face these moments like
Right,
this.
because how many times do your kids do stuff like that,
Oh, yeah.
but you still have to do it. Be there for them in any capacity, in all capacities. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, let's see. What is our next episode? I don't even know if I know.
The next episode
Oh,
would be,
Mona's
according
Limo.
to Internet Movie Database, Mona's Limo. Yep, you're right.
So I'm going to be honest. I don't remember this episode, which
Oh, great.
means
I
it
like-
must be one that I didn't watch very often.
It's like the first one
I know.
that you don't remember. Almost every one of these, like, that's pretty good. I I'm watching it for the first time. Some of them,
Yeah.
even though I did watch every one of them as a kid.
So that one is going to be like I'm watching it for the first time. Okay, well, you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter. Or if you go to Facebook, we have a page, the Who's the Boss Podcast page. Or go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast. And there you can leave a voice message. And that is it. Everyone have a safe rest of your week. And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Stay safe out there.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell all your friends. And give you a big pat on the back. Bye. I added some extra.